Are you tired of the same old regurgitated information about high strangeness and want a new perspective? Then you're in luck. Come join Bizarre Conspiracies. We'll take you on a wild journey to the unexplored and unexplained. That's Bizarre Conspiracies. Find us anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to Bizarre Conspiracies. My name is Eric Patino, and today I'm joined by Conrad Toll and Fullhulk, and we will be interviewing author of the book The Ohio Monster, David Walker. This is That Conversation. I'm Eric Patino, and I'm joined by Conrad Toll.
Howdy.
And Fullhulk.
Hey.
And today we have special guest David Walker here to talk to us about Bigfoot, his personal encounters with Bigfoot. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, where would you like to start?
Where would I like to start?
Well, David Walker.
Start with, that I did write a book about it, and I do believe y'all advertised that on your
yes.
on your intro.
The Ohio Monster.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. Did any of y'all read that?
I have not yet.
I have the book. I just haven't read it yet.
I can't wait.
Okay, well then I guess I'm going to have to brief y'all on some of the encounters. Not drawing them out or anything. Just kind of giving you a little, a little heads up on right. What they are about. Do I have the floor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My first encounter was when I was 11 years old. All these encounters took place in Ohio. Which a lot of people say, well, that's not a big place out there in the Oregon and Washington, British Columbia. That's the main one. But these all took place in Ohio, believe it or not. And I'm 11 years old, camping out with my friend. We just decided at the last minute, hey, let's go camping out this weekend. Yeah, he said, I got a nice deer out here, and a nice big buck. Let's come out and maybe we can see it in the morning when we wake up. Oh yeah, that's cool. It was just right before school let out, and the year is back in the day, 1972. So we're on top of this hill. We're camping out, and it's right around 1:30 in the morning. We're tired. We had a long night. We really did. I'm skipping some details because I don't want to tell everything. It'd take me half an hour just to tell one story.
That's understandable.
So we're at 1:30. We hear twigs breaking. We're just about closing our eyes. We've been talking all night, and we hear twigs snapping outside the tent. And I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. He's like, I thought we had this place all to ourselves because it was a real high hill, briars, thorn trees, real thick stuff. You know the type. You've been out in the woods, and so we're not expecting anything up there. And it's about maybe like 250 feet high. This hill, very high hill, and we can see a long ways when you're on top of it. So we said, hey, it's going to be a nice place to camp out. So getting back to the twig snapping, and we hear them, we're looking at each other, wondering what in the heck is out there. And because the sound sounded too big to be an animal. They was crisp, like a big heavy man was walking around our tent. And so we're like, well, who could that be? Then he said, oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's my brother. He could be up here trying to scare us because he was the only one that knew we were camping out, right? So we obviously didn't think it was some animal or monster. It had to be his brother. So it had to be him. All of a sudden, we hear a noise. We hear... And now we're really looking at each other because this doesn't sound like his brother. This sounds like something else, if I can put it that way. And we're looking. We got fear in our eyes, but then we're like, okay, maybe it is his brother, and maybe he just making that noise. So he said, on the count of 3, Dave, let's roll out and scare him. I go, okay. Because I'm thinking this time it has to be his brother. Because it can't be nobody else. 1, 2, 3. I roll out of the tent because, I'm thinking it's his brother. He stayed in the tent. He let me go out and see who it is, see. I roll out thinking he's going to follow me. I roll out of the tent. I jump up, my hands in the air going, rah. and I look across the tent, thinking to see his brother, but I see something else. And this thing is wide, it's tall, and I look up. I'm 5'9", 5'10". I'm 5'9" and 11 years old even. I'm going to be a tall boy. I have to look up to see this thing's face.
Jeez.
And I'm telling you, I saw look right into its eyes, and I'm about 5 to 6 feet away from this thing, tall, hairy, and the eyes, some people say the eyes glow, but I believe each one of these things have a different look to it, but just like human beings, we all look different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same, and its eyes were like pure black, I'll never forget it. There was no white. You know how you look in a human's eye, you'll see a little bit of white in its eyes.
Right.
Nothing in the pure black. And it just like, I just felt something go clear through me. Like I knew I was looking at something that wasn't of this world. And I know that sounds crazy. They all say, oh, don't go going that way. No, I just knew as a kid, even this doesn't belong here. This is something else.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And as I look at it and as I lower my hands, I start stepping back. I take about 1 or 2 steps back. And as I step back, I don't know whether it was because of my movement or what, but it took off running. But it took off running past me, not away from me, but it ran right past me. He could have reached out and knocked me into oblivion. But he didn't. He just ran past me to say, I'm not scared of you, little boy. He runs across the bridge, and, of course, he disappeared. Well, once he disappeared, this thing ran. When I say he ran across the bridge, I mean he ran across the bridge. Have you seen a track star run? This thing put track stars to shame. And besides that, it took long strides as it ran, but yet it ran fast, so it didn't appear to be running. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was running on 2 feet and not on all 4.
Oh, right. And that's another thing. It wasn't a bear.
Right.
My gosh, there were no bears in Ohio at that time. I don't even know if there's any bears in Ohio right now, but I know there was in that time. And this thing, if it was a bear, it ran on 2 of its legs. How's that?
So did this Bigfoot have a distinct smell to it?
And no, I did not. That's a very good question. Most people say like the skunk ape, I can smell it. Smell. But I was that close, right? But I never detected a smell.
It's interesting.
That's wild. Now, did it jump back? Like when you jumped out at it? Like what was its reaction?
You mean when I raised my arms?
Yeah.
No, it just stood there and just looked at me, and I'm staring into its eyes. And we're only talking about 2 seconds here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This thing reacted fast, but yet it didn't react immediately. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Put it off guard, kind of. Wow.
So
Now, did the fellow in the tent, did he see it or?
Yes, he seen. Now, and that's the thing. The fella in the tent, and listen to my story on this one. He gets out as this thing runs away. He pokes his head out the tent. He goes, "Oh my God, Dave, that was Bigfoot." I go, "Bigfoot?" I go, "Is that what you call that thing?" He goes, "Yeah, man. Let's get the HGLL out of here before he comes back and finishes what he started." Like, he was like, he both hit. Oh, that's what I forgot to tell y'all. I forgot to tell you about it hit us both on the head in the tent.
Oh, wow.
Was it a hard smack or was it just feeling the tent?
A real hard slap. Not a punch per se, but a real hard slap in the tent. He hit my friend first. He goes, "Ow, man," because he called me. He thought it was his brother. "Ow, Eddie," because that hurt. And I goes, "Oh, it's Ed," like that. And then it hit again and hit me on the head. Now, let me describe the tent for you boys. Mm-hmm. The tent was one of those old army tents, back in the day, dark green material. You couldn't see through the tent during the daylight.
Gotcha.
How did that thing hit us both? How did it hit us both? No, where did it hit us on the head at? Because the tent, even though it wasn't big, it wasn't dinky either. It was like, like a 4x6 tent. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So our heads were faces, but yet it hit us both on the head as if they could see right through that tent.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Now you talk about something having X-ray vision.
Yeah, or maybe it could smell your scent in the way too.
Yeah, probably.
Detecting you there.
I don't know if you can.
You could. I suppose you could go that route. Yeah.
I'd probably be more likely that it would have heard where you were, but not smell. I don't think you could actually detect some scent through a cloth like that. It would probably smell like the scent was coming from the. Like, imagine if you come up to a tent and there's a rotting egg on the inside, you can't tell where in the tent it is. You can smell it coming from the flap.
Yeah, but also we don't know how good these guys can smell. If it's like a wolf or a bear smelling food, you know what I mean? Like, well, it might have that same type of range, you know?
Right.
That's why.
Like I said, I don't think it seen through it. It didn't see through the tent, unless we go on to another plane and say the thing may have been some type of a supernatural creature. That's the only way it could have seen through the tent. But if you're thinking it's just a natural creature, then I want to know how that thing know where to hit us on the head at.
Yeah,
Right.
that's wild.
That just doesn't correlate in my mind.
Yeah, that's odd, man. Wow. Now, did you see detail on its face? Like, did you see its nose and its mouth?
Man, I only looked at it for 2 seconds, and the 2 seconds I looked at it, I was in here.
Yeah.
All I could remember looking at was its eyes. That's why I said its eyes were pure black. And y'all do know that it was. They did reenact my encounter on the show on the Travel Channel.
Yeah, I loved it. It's great.
And so, obviously, all I could see was its eyes, and instead on its eyes, its eyes were pure black. I can't remember its nose or its mouth, but I can remember that when it ran away, I can remember muscle groups on its legs. I could see muscle groups moving on its legs.
Wow. Okay. So its fur it wasn't like didn't have a lot of fur on its legs in ways, right?
Shorter, I would say shorter hair maybe on its legs.
Maybe closer to like a cow's hide.
No, I wouldn't say no. It was longer. It was maybe like a half inch on his leg, half inch to 3/4 of an inch on. I don't know. I'm just guessing because obviously it was dark and everything. But see, we had the campfire and it was glowing a little bit. The embers were glowing, so there was just a little bit of light there. So as it ran past the campfire, that's when it lit up its legs and I could see muscle groups moving.
Wow. Now, in the video, it showed you guys going back up there to the tent. Were you able to find like tracks?
Exactly. Very good point. I was just getting there. Let me just back up a little bit before that because before the breakfast table, and here come to find out, I told his dad. I said I won't use his real name, but I'll call his name John, the name I used in the book. I said, John, we seen George said it was a Bigfoot. He put his head down, and I'm like, that's a weird reaction. And then he raised it back up, and he said, he's back.
Oh my
God. Who's back? He goes, Bigfoot. I go, well, I looked at my friend and he looked back at his dad and his dad just said, yeah, we seen it. We seen it out at the barn about 6 months ago. He said, I got George and I went out there and he said, we opened up the door because the cows were mooing real bad. I thought one of the neighbors were out there trying to steal one of my calves. I goes, okay. And he said, we walked 2 or 3 steps in there real slow. And he said, we looked off to our left and we seen something jump up. And he said, it took off running. And he said, it was tall and hairy. And he said, it had the craziest eyes. He said, I threw my gun up to shoot at it. But he said, I couldn't get no aim on it. He said, I won't pull the trigger unless I know I'm going to hit it.
Right.
And he said, he said it was too fast. He said, it ran out the back of the barn door. And he said, I went out the next day and we found tracks. Now, the strange thing about those tracks was they only had 3 toes at the end instead of the normal 5, like on most. You see them on the internet. Most of them have 5. These only had 3 toes. And the ones up at the tent, when we went from the breakfast table, we went back up to the tent. Now we're on top of the hill. And he said, there's one, boys. And we all kind of walked over real quickly to it and looked at it. And no, we didn't have, back in them days, all we had was Kodiak, Polaroid cameras. They were kind of big, heavy. We didn't have cell phones. We could take a real quick picture. We didn't have that stuff. They were talking 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Jeez.
But I got a picture in my mind that I won't forget it. If I lived to be 200 years old, I'll never forget that footprint. Absolutely. And it had 3 toes at the end of it.
That's wild, man. Jeez.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard of the 3 toes.
Yeah, me too.
You say that's the first time?
Yes, sir. That's the first time I've heard of it.
I've always heard 5.
Because I had somebody email me after they seen that video and they said, "Oh, you seen old 3 toes too, huh?" And I go, "Yeah, the print we seen had 3 toes." I said, "Did you see one with 3 toes before?" He goes, "Yeah, man." Because me and he started describing his story, and it was a track with 3 toes in Ohio.
It's interesting.
Oh my, that's wild. Jeez.
Now let me take you on a journey. Now, as you seen in the video, where we was following the footprints. So we followed them to about like maybe, I counted about 12, about a dozen of the tracks. And then right in the middle of the road, and there's still more road to go. There's no trees right around except for maybe within 20 feet up ahead of us. And the track stopped. And I said, hey, John, I goes, oh, I can't find no more track. He goes, what do you mean you can't find no more track? He thought I just couldn't see the next track. So he comes up, he's looking around, he can't see it. George comes up with him, and he said, George, once you guys span out across the bridge, see if you can find any more tracks. He goes, there has to be some more tracks. We spanned out. We all did. We all looked for about around 5 to 10 minutes, and we couldn't find no more clues. It was if right there, that last track, all the sign vanished.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that a lot, too.
So my question is, of course, everybody's question, right? Where did it go?
Absolutely. That's why they call it a dimensional beast or interdimensional beast.
And that's why, boys, or I should say, you guys, that's why I'm writing my second book, and I'm halfway through it. And the information that I have found out on this second, this is going to be the barn burner of the barn burners. It's beyond, because I can take you back into the Bible and actually bring forth some beings that the Bible says lived on this earth that I believe may hold the clue to this Sasquatch being.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's,
the name of my book is, of course, you probably can guess it, Supernatural Sasquatch.
Nice. I thought it was going to be the Ohio Monster, too.
Yeah, you could label it that, but this is a little bit more definitive.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah.
Can't wait to read that one.
No, absolutely.
I can't wait to get it out.
I have a question for you, actually. So I've been reading a lot of reports that there are more likely than not Bigfoot sightings along with a UFO sighting. Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever seen a UFO?
My friend, that is what I'm getting into in this supernatural Sasquatch. I have a whole chapter on that.
Awesome.
Yes, they have been. Okay, there was a sighting in Pennsylvania, Pulaski, if I'm pronouncing their name right, Pulaski Farm in Pennsylvania in 1973, I believe the date is. Like just a little bit past when I seen mine in 72. Mm-hmm. In 73, the Pulaski Farm incident where police were, the state trooper, I believe, was called out to the farm, and they called and they said they had a UFO sitting on their property, and out of the UFO beam, they said, came two giant hairy beings walking toward their house.
I've heard about that too. I have.
Wow.
He grabbed his rifle, and he's a hunter. He grabbed his rifle, being an excellent shot, shot at these things at, 40, 50 yards. He knows he hit them, and all they done was turned around and walked back into the woods.
That is crazy.
The state trooper went out and he used his shined his light. He found some hair, and the other thing he found was some, of course, the shell casings that Mr. Pulaski shot with, and that's the only thing he found.
Wow.
He didn't even see where the UFO landed.
Oh my God! See that's where it goes deep when you mix those two together. That's wild. God.
Now, please don't get me wrong. I don't want your listener to get the wrong idea. I don't want them to think that I'm saying that every time you see a Bigfoot, you should see a UFO.
Right.
No,
right.
No.
Absolutely.
But there are instances where that has occurred. So, with that being said, don't you think, like the one man just asked me, that there is a connection? And if there is a connection, what type of connection is it?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in other words, there's a lot of questions that my stories and what I'm saying here is generating. How else? Is the Sasquatch is it a real natural creature of this earth? If it is, tell me something. Mm-hmm. Tell me why no has ever brought in a body.
Right.
I know. That's what I was going to say. Bodies.
And also, have you ever found a body of a ghost?
No.
Definitely not.
And what is a ghost? Could you say that a ghost might be supernatural?
Yeah.
I've also heard reports that Bigfoot
connecting the dots.
Right.
Yeah, I can see where you're going. Yeah, it makes you think. It really does.
If this being is a real creature, surely somebody would have found somebody out.
Absolutely. I mean, with all the sightings, the one thing I do like that you have on the back of your book, which I've always said too, is like the people that don't believe in Bigfoot, but there's all these thousands and thousands of sightings. On the back of the book, you put not everybody's lying, and it's true.
Right.
It's like all of these sightings. And I mean, majority, okay, that's fine. Like it's a bear or whatever it is, but all these people, they're not lying. You know,
exactly.
it's too many of them. There's too many sightings. There's families being attacked at night by rocks, and you know what I mean, like, and they can see them coming up to the windows, and it's weird. But I mean, not everyone's lying.
Like you said, boys, I got more stories to tell, and it just confirms just what you're talking about all these sites that they can't be just made up. Now, do you know that the biggest sighting ever? You know what that was in 1958, or no, excuse me, 1967, Roger Patterson video.
Yep. Yeah.
Anybody that knows the Bigfoot subject knows about that video.
Right.
Absolutely. It's the most famous.
And I know there's a guy, and he's a professional videographer. He's a professional. He does video shoots for TV people. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but it's in my book. But anyhow, he's a professional guy, and he said he's the only living man ever to see the original Patterson film.
Wow.
And he says, I don't care what all these other actresses say, actor guys say that, yeah, that's just somebody in a Bigfoot suit. He said, I seen that original film. He said, I guarantee you, that creature does not walk like a human. There's no way that could have been a man walking. He said, he said, in my opinion, that definitely was a creature. It was, in other words, he was saying it's a creature. It's not a man. He verified that. He said that it definitely was not a man.
Yeah.
There was a famous Hollywood I guess you could say costume manager, designer. You know, he handled the costumes in a lot of films. He was very famous and good at his job. And when he saw that, he didn't know that it was what it was at first. And so he just saw it without any context. And he said, I want to talk to whoever made that costume, because he didn't think that he could replicate it.
And that's another thing, sir. They still haven't replicated it today with all the modern well, you know what I'm trying to say, with all the things they have,
skill set
and the knowledge we have today, they still can't replicate that suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, what's that tell you? What is that telling you?
Yeah.
That's telling you that suit wasn't man-made. Matter of fact, it's also telling you it wasn't a suit.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it tells me. Like I said, everybody has their own opinion, and that's fine. But I just, knowing what I know, what I believe I know, I say that it definitely, there's no way it was a man. Just like the thing I saw in 1972, it wasn't no one trying to scare us.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's going to climb? And that's another, I have a chapter on my book called Against the Odds. What are the odds? What are the odds that somebody came up for you to scare a couple boys camping out? What are the odds?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
1:30 in the morning. 1:30 in the morning. Who gets up at 1:30 in the morning to scare a couple boys? Maybe 10 or 11 o'clock at night. But 1:30 in the morning?
Yeah, that's
climbing a hill 250 feet high, briars and thorn trees. Who's going to go to all that trouble? And number three, there's no way anybody could have put a costume on and then run in it. Run 40 yards. We measured it. It was 40 yards. Run 40 yards. And I swear that thing, from the time I seen it, take off running to the time it disappeared, no more than 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
God damn.
How is someone weighing 500 to 800 pounds going to run 40 yards in 3 seconds?
It's no way.
No, yeah. That's crazy.
It's 100% impossible.
In the video, too, that I was watching, I think it was something in the barn where, was that your dad and your brother? They were walking out to the barn?
That was my friend and his dad. Yeah.
That's who it was. Okay. And they walked out. Do you still have contact with your friend, too?
No. He, during school, in our later years, right before we graduated, he kind of went into one particular area. He was a mechanic, and I was more into sports, you know. And so we just kind of didn't. He went to a different school to take his mechanic. It was a vacation. I stayed in high school. So we kind of lost touch with each other, and we really haven't connected through the years. So that's why I use a fictitious name, because I'm not going to use his real name. I don't want to put him on the spot or anything.
Right.
And besides that, I could get sued if I use his real name.
Right.
Very true. Yep.
So I can't do that. Matter of fact, I almost leaked it out when I was talking to you guys, but I caught myself and I changed it back to the name of my book, George.
Okay. Now, he found one in his barn?
Yes, 6 months prior to the time we saw, they saw in the barn. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It was
you've heard of them trying to get cows or deer or something like that.
But did he came up and told you that story too, I guess?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I can't imagine just like how frightening it would be to, go into the barn and realize you just cornered the biggest animal you've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But I'm wondering who had who cornered. Did they have it cornered or did he have them cornered?
Right.
Yeah. Now, did he shoot it?
No, he raised up his gun at it to shoot it, but it was too fast. He couldn't get a name on it.
Now, can you speculate a little bit why we even see Bigfoot? Because they don't seem to be particularly hostile towards humans.
They seem to like to scare you, to be truthful with you. From all the stories that I've heard, besides my own, they just seem to get a kick out of scaring people. I know that sounds fictitious or crazy or not a right answer, but from what I'm gathering, they just seem to get a kick out of scaring people. Of course, they don't talk to you, so you don't really know their true intentions, but they seem to make themselves seen, just like when they're hiding behind a tree. They'll peek their head out around the tree and look at you, and then they'll yank it back.
Yeah. Now, them not being like vicious or not, but I mean, when you go to talking about like the whole 411 missing cases and stuff like that. Now that kind of talks about violent. Well, it circles around like Bigfoot being the suspect of these people being missing, is what it seems like.
Okay, can I say something about that? This is what I want to say. I think that they're just these beings or creatures, whether they're supernatural or no, whatever they are, they seem to have characteristics like people. Some are aggressive. Some are very docile, very laid back. Absolutely. They have different demeanors, if I could say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's different types, just like people.
And it seems as though, for the most part, they're not very violent at all. But there are the few cases where it'll turn up. And I remember this one story where this fella called the police, and he was talking on dispatch, and he was saying he was going to shoot this animal, and they kept asking what it was, and he said, "I don't really know. It looks like a big old monkey or something." And when they showed up at the scene, he was dead, and there was no monkey or big animal to be found. And there's other cases where there's people that said that they've been thrown around or pinned down by Bigfoot. But for the most, they're just very peaceful. But occasionally, you'll find that one story or two stories where it'll get aggressive.
Yes. Just like I saw one on TV. I think it was on, your YouTube. You watch a YouTube video, and this guy was talking about his experience, and he said that him and his friend went in the woods hunting, but they ended up being the hunted, and they ended up having like 3 or 5 of them or something like that had surrounded them, and some way somehow they found an opening, and they took off running through the opening, and they could hear these creatures following them. But they said they could have probably caught them, but they said they just kind of stayed with us until we got to our vehicle. But then he said we were so doggone scared, we just started firing rounds at them. And he said, I think that kind of kept them away from coming closer to us. He said, then we got in our truck. He said, we got the HEL out of there.
Jeez.
So they didn't get attacked, but if they wouldn't have had their weapons with them, it sounded like they probably would have.
Yeah. Now, do you think
you want me to say any more of my stories, or you guys want any more questions to ask me? Or you want to tell a few more stories, or
one question? Now you got Bigfoot and you got Sasquatch. What do you think the difference is between them?
Not a thing.
I figured that.
The difference is whoever's calling it. The Indians call it Sasquatch, which means big hairy man or wild man or whatever you want to call it. And Bigfoot's usually called by normal white, not normal, by the white people or the Americans, whatever you want to call them. Call us. We call them big because of that situation in '58 where Rodney. His last name's Crew, the Crew guy, where he said he said they look like they got real big feet, and then the newspaper journalist said I'd call it big, and that term has always stuck with the creature. Yeah. So because that's where the Bigfoot came in at. But really, they were describing what the Indian called Sasquatch. So Bigfoot and Sasquatch are just synonymous names of the same thing. Being.
Yeah,
just different people. Okay.
I believe you have a nickname out in Ohio for it as well, right?
Grassman.
Grassman, yeah.
And where does
they call them? What do they call the Florida? Skunk ape.
Skunk ape, yep.
So where the
in
name
different
Grassman?
localities. Grassman in Ohio, because I guess its hair is pretty long in Ohio. Just like I said, the guy said it was short like a cowhide. I said no, it was longer than that. On its legs, it was shorter hair, but on its chest area, it was like maybe a couple inches long. So I can see where they would say Grassman, because the hair was longer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was its leg like huge? Like it looked like a bodybuilder, or is it just?
No, I wouldn't say a bodybuilder, but the waist was lower. The legs were shorter than an average man's. The legs were a little bit shorter, stockier. Can I use the word stocky?
Yeah. That's what.
Now, do you think that Bigfoot is at all related to the Yeti?
Oh, yeah. Basically, I believe they're all the same creature, but according to the climate they live in, they look a little bit different. Just like people, Chinese people look a little bit different than us, don't they? South American, Mexican. You see, y'all, am I making any sense here?
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
They get a little bit different according to their locality.
Yeah.
And I'm not cutting. Please don't get. I'm not cutting down Chinese or Mexican. I'm just saying. I'm just using that as an example of we look a little bit different to each other based on our locality. So do they.
Everyone's different. Absolutely.
Yes.
So about how many encounters have you had?
I've had about 7 encounters, but I've actually saw the beast twice.
Ooh.
Wow.
Have you ever heard the Bigfoot screech or the scream? There's a ton of recordings all over on YouTube.
Oh, I got cold water thrown all over me. Yes, I heard the screams all right, because one of my chapters in the Ohio Monster, I was barricaded in my house. I would not leave my house because the screams and the howls were coming down from the bottom by an old railroad track that used to run through there.
Oh.
I mean, screams and howls that lasted from 8 o'clock at night till about 1 o'clock in the morning.
How would you describe the sound that you heard, the scream?
Like a woman that was scared to death, and you see on TV where she goes, ah, like that. Well, say that real loud. And some of the screams were like that, but the howls were different. So I came to reason in my book, I put in my chapter that there were 2 Bigfoots calling at each other.
Right.
Male and female. I don't know. I'm just surmising. Okay, because there were 2 different howls. One sound was a more deeper, prolonged howl, like like kind of something like that, and the other was like a woman screaming that she was scared to death.
Wow. I actually was in the Pine Barrens when I was younger, and we were out there just riding around and stuff, and it was the middle of the night, and I actually did hear it sounded like a woman and a horse screaming in the same voice.
Wow.
It was the weirdest sound, but it echoed, and it was loud. And
did it make the hair on the back of your neck stand
That would
up?
terrify me.
Oh, hell yeah. I ran as fast as I could. Yep. My buddy's father, he's a hunter out in the woods also. He told me it was the Jersey Devil is what he said. But now that talking to you, it probably was more closer to a Bigfoot. It sounds like it.
Yes. I mean, that scream barricaded my. I was afraid to go out. I called the police, and I wasn't going to call, but I called my mom and told her, and she goes, she never did believe my Bigfoot stories until she heard it that night.
Yeah.
She said, she goes, don't you start about that Bigfoot stuff again. I said, Mom, listen, I put the phone up against the window, and that thing went, ow! It started screaming real loud. And she goes, oh, my God, what is that? I said, Mom, what do you think it is?
Wow.
Is that big? Is that how big? I said, Mom, what else? There's no one out there, Mom. There's no one out on my property. But there's a house. There's something's there. But I thought, it can't be a person. So she goes, you better call the police. I go, well, am I going to call the police, Mom, and say, I got a Bigfoot out here screaming. Can you come out and investigate it? They're going to hang the phone up on me.
Yep.
She goes, well, just tell them, just tell them that you got a noise complaint. That's what I told them. Now listen to this. They come out and I tell them where I'm hearing that and stuff, and they go, okay, sir, stay right here, keep the door locked. We're going to go check it out. So I watch out the window. I'm watching them, and they're showing their flashlights that are all around there. So they're gone about 15 minutes. So they finally come back and they knock on my door. And the guy says, we checked down there. We checked the railroad gate. It's locked. It's secured. We didn't see no ATV tracks, or anything like that. We didn't see nothing. But, you say you're hearing these noises. Okay. Like that. I goes, yeah, sir, something down there. He goes, I believe you. And then, he said, but now listen, if you hear anything else, give us a call. I go, okay, no problem. I shut the door, right? But they're still standing there. And I open up the door. I goes, is there something else you need to know? He goes, sir, let me tell you something. He said, this isn't the first time we've been out here about loud noises. I go, it's
really?
Not. He goes, because I was renting the house. See, I was a renter. The people that lived before me, they also called. And the people that lived before them called. He said 3 different families have called about noises, being howls and screeches being heard out here. He said, so when I heard it, he said, I thought to myself, I know exactly where that location is. And I know exactly what's going on. Well, as far as the noises, he goes, let me tell you what. He said, if I lived here, let me give you a piece of advice, sir. If I heard screaming like you heard, I'd be finding me another place to live. He's not just my advice. Just my advice. He said, but this is the 3rd time I've been out here in 3 years.
Must be a hot spot.
Wow. My God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how long did you hear those screams?
From about 8 o'clock, I said, to about 1 o'clock. Yeah. About 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
Holy cow, man.
Now, would you consider that a reason to move from a place if there's Bigfoot around?
Would I?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't want to have anything to do with it. Now, I wouldn't mind being a researcher because I'm just going to go and I'm going to look and I'm going to get the heck back. But as far as living where these things are at, now I don't want them things pecking on my house all the time. Like I've heard some people have where they have actually repetitive sightings at their house and they live here. Matter of fact, I could tell you guys stories all night long. We could do this thing for 5 hours and I'd still have stories to tell.
Oh, God.
I have heard so many stories in my book. There's this police officer who actually he photographed. He didn't photograph. He took plaster cast prints of this track in Georgia, in my home state of Georgia here, and sent these tracks out to a professional to Jeff Meldrum.
Ooh,
I know y'all Jeff Meldrum.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Meldrum, the anthropologist, checked him out and said, this definitely has to be, someone else has to look at these too. So he called his friend in Texas a fingerprint analysis and a primate, a dermal ridge type guy. He went and he checked them out and they both concluded that this track was the best track that they have on record of an actual Bigfoot.
Wow.
It's called, oh man, y'all have to get my book. I can't think of the name of it again. But anyhow, where the guy found it out, this man kept on calling in for complaints and saying that he was having, he kept on hearing pecking noises, knocking noises on his house. He would hear real loud screeching and howls. His dog food kept on coming up missing. Corn, he had things coming up missing. And then one night, after about 4 months, he had the door to his shed completely ripped off. And so he called the police again and he said, listen, when are y'all going to find these guys? Because he's thinking it's just people out there messing with him. When are you going to find these guys? He goes, they're tearing up my place. I've called you numerous times. Y'all haven't found nothing. He's not getting sick and tired of it. So they sent the same guy, the same policeman out again. And he's like, perhaps I can't find nothing during the night. I'm going to have to come back during the day. But he said he was off during the day. But he said in order to get down to the problem, he would come out. So he went out during the day. And listen to this. He's looking around the property. And all of a sudden he looks up in the air, up on this tree, and he sees a tractor tire that would have weighed about around 200 pounds. He sees the tractor tire 30 feet up in tree branches.
What?
Jeez.
Oh, my God.
And he stood there and stared at it. And then he remembered a guy telling him, he said, I just thought of a guy telling me about 2 weeks before he was out there that a guy seen a big hairy creature run across the road in front of his car about a half mile from the guy's house.
Oh my God. He's playing horseshoes.
So he's like, this isn't the work of, he thought they were marijuana growers just trying to scare the old man and woman off the property. But when he seen that tire in the tree, he knew that was not the work of vandals. He knew this was something more powerful.
Absolutely. Jeez.
And that's when he went down to the creek. And he said when he got down the creek, he had his gun out in his hand. And he said he knew somebody was watching him. He couldn't see him, but he walked along the creek. And that's when he seen tracks going down in toward the creek, and then there was one on top of the bank, and that's the one he made the cast out of.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's wild.
So these some wild stories or what? But they're true.
Yeah.
So where are they keeping this cast?
Where are they keeping the cast?
Yeah.
That's a very good question because I don't know where the cast is now. All I know about the cast is that Jeff Meldrum and what's that guy Wilcox or something touch with the W guy from investigator from Texas also checked it out. Those two checked it out and they both that it definitely was what they call a Sasquatch track.
Okay.
Authentic. Now guys, there are we all know as I do. There's a lot of fake tracks out there.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a lot of fake print. There's a lot of fake stuff to this Bigfoot, and that's what makes the skeptics because they're like, oh yeah, man. My uncle, he went out there metal contracts, and I'm trying to say you hear all kinds, and a lot of the stories are true. It's fake, a lot of fake stuff associated with it. But I would say 90 to 95% of all Bigfoot evidence is fake. So my question to you is, what about the 5%?
Absolutely. Not everybody's lying. There's too many people.
Do you think
all the way back to Native Americans to current day? There's long records of it.
Yes, and if there is even what they call it, is it a petroglyph they call it? Is it painting in northern Georgia here and up in the hills on a big rock across the hill? The Indian painted looked like little men, and all of a sudden there's this great big thing, and they're interacting with it according to the picture. I guess I saw the picture, and it's they're interacting with this great big thing, and because there's so many stories of Bigfoot and Sasquatch and the Native American legends.
Mm-hmm.
And traditions and their stories, folklore.
Oh yeah,
that's one of the best evidence that they have of the creature is that painting on that rock and it was made. They carved and dated to I think it was 1600 or 1800 years ago.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that on the internet too. It's shocking to actually see it. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, this thing's been around for a long time.
Absolutely, it's probably how they built the pyramids. Makes it think, right?
Yeah, I never thought about that.
That's a good. I like that one.
So there's a lot of tales, Native American legends of the Bigfoot, and in a lot of them, he's a spiritual guardian or a watcher, or in some of them, he's a gatekeeper to the spiritual world. And that kind of, I believe that you were saying that you believe that he might be some sort of a spiritual entity. Do you think maybe there's a key, perhaps, in that Native American legends and that sort of thing?
Most definitely. I have, matter of fact, in my book that I'm writing now, the Supernatural Sasquatch, I have a chapter in there about what all the Indians say about this thing. And you hit the nail right on the head. They believe that it's an interdimensional creature. 100%, well, not all the Indian tribes do, but let's just say 80 to 85% of their tribes believe it's an interdimensional creature.
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
They tell stories about this thing disappearing right in front of them.
And do you think that maybe that's one of the reasons why it always seems like it's showing up to scare people, is it's a guardian that's trying to keep people away from maybe sacred grounds, or just maybe like the god Pan, the Greek god, who is the god of the wild and is trying to preserve the wilderness?
Mm-hmm. Y'all have heard of portals, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think, just like the man just got insane there, I think that it may be that they're more prevalent around these portals, trying to keep people away from them, because these portals could be, as in Einstein theory or quantum physics holds, to a whole new different dimension, different universe. I can't go there because I'm not an expert in that area, but I have heard of the theory before, and I do believe it does sound plausible.
Yeah.
And that's deep, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard that before as well, though. I mean, how else can you explain them? You know what I mean? Disappearing like that. Something that big disappearing in thin air. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we got a lot of theories floating around out here. And if I'm going to pick one, y'all know which way I go, because it's the only one that makes sense.
Right.
And I would go with the natural creature theory, but show me a body first.
I know. And that's how you're going to convince anyone that is a non-believer is you need a body. Unfortunately, that's what you need.
So the skeptic says, thinking on natural terms, well, you can't show me a body, so y'all are lying. It's also a bunch of fake. Not necessarily. You haven't thought deep enough. You haven't thought long enough yet. If these people aren't lying and they are saying something and you can't produce a body, what's that tell you when you start connecting the dots?
Yeah.
What's it tell you? That this thing tells me this thing isn't of this world. Okay, now let me tell you a real good one, Tori. This isn't my story. I'm going to tell you a story that I read in this book, and I have it right here. I brought it down here with me right here. And you guys can order the book and everything. It's by Stephen Quayle and Dr. Thomas Horn. It's called Unearthing the Lost World of the Cloud Eaters. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
You have to get this book because this book will tell you it's on the same exact plane that I am. But it's by two well-known authors. And these ain't kids out of the hood. Mm-hmm. These guys are known. They're professionals. They know what they're talking about. And it's called Unearthing the Lost World of the Cloud Eaters. You gotta get it. Stephen Quayle and Thomas Horn. And they tell a story. Now listen to this story I'm going to tell you because I know it by heart. It's a place in Utah. It's called the scariest place on earth. There is an area in Utah. I can't exactly tell you the towns that it's in, but it's in, I know the area's in Utah. And there's a farm there that there were scientific professionals bought this farm because they heard the previous owners kept on saying that there was scary entities, that there were Bigfoot and there were UFOs and there were ghosts and there were poltergeists and everything happening on their farm. And so they went out and checked and they found it to be legitimate. And so the guy said, we can't continue to live here. We're selling it. They sold it for rock bottom price. And these scientists bought the place. And there was I think it was 7 of them. But the 2 of the people stayed out there most of the time. And those 2 people that stayed out there had a story to tell. And I'm telling you, you won't believe it. But this is the story they told.
Now, is this Skinwalker Ranch?
Excuse me?
This Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes. Skinwalker Ranch in Utah.
I know all about it. Yeah, I've listened to so many YouTubes about it and stories. I love it. It's amazing.
And the scariest encounter, was both of them were together. And unfortunately, the ranch owner went and got his rifle because the dogs were howling. They were going crazy. And a tree by the farm, the guy drove over to it in his Jeep. Both of them were there, and he shined the light up in the tree, and he seen these eyes glowing back at him. And they said the head of this thing was 3 feet wide. And there was something else standing at the bottom of the tree that he said it looked to him like a dog man creature. It was like a Bigfoot, but it had the head of a dog on it. And it was hairy. And it had real stocky muscles and stuff, whatever. And he said, this guy, the ranch owner, shot both of them. Well, when he shot the dog man disappeared. When he shot the thing in the tree, it fell down and he heard a hit on the snow. There was snow on the ground. He heard a smack on the snow. So they ran over to see what it was, but it wasn't there. But they saw blood. And so they followed the blood for a mile or so. And then they couldn't find them more. They didn't find the creature. They couldn't find blood. The next day they brought in some professional trackers. They tracked it with dogs and everything. Couldn't find nothing. But he said he's a crack shot. He doesn't miss. And he said he knows he hit that thing. Well, he heard it hit the ground, fell out of the tree and hit the ground.
Wow.
Couldn't find it. It wasn't there. But they went back and was looking around the tree. You know how you go back and kind of look around where you first seen it and stuff? They found a track underneath the tree. And this track, make a long story short, when they done the research, it resembled the exact track of a velociraptor that you found in Jurassic Park.
Whoa. I've heard that. Yep. Yeah, I've heard that. It's insane.
So what is a dinosaur, a velociraptor that existed, we don't know how long ago, they're extinct now. What's that thing doing up in a tree on a ranch in Utah?
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other story, this is where they seen the portal. They literally seen the portal. They seen this, looked like an orb from a distance to them. And this orb began to glow brighter and began to shine a great big doorway. And it was in a circular motion. Well, at the other end of that portal, globe or orb or whatever you want to call it, they seen a black creature that resembled a Bigfoot, but they don't know. It was some type of a black, strange creature that was struggling to crawl out of this hole. It was trying to get from one dimension to our dimension. It was struggling. And then all of a sudden popped out and took off running. And as soon as it popped out and took off running, the orb and the glowing ball disappeared.
Whoa.
Oh my God. Yeah, there's so many stories about that ranch. It'll blow your mind. It really will. They should do a movie about it. They really should.
They really should. They really should. I agree with that.
Well, they have a video on YouTube, and there's a lot of people backing up the video saying how real it is. It was a news reporter that was sitting in the ranch with the owner at the time they were talking, doing an interview with the husband, and in the back of behind the husband where the kitchen's at, you actually see a gray alien's head poke out a little bit from the side and then go right back into the kitchen. But you can look up on YouTube and it'll blow your mind. Yes,
you need to send me that link.
I will. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, the story even gets worse than that. I mean, I think it was they went shopping and came home from shopping in their truck. I think it might have been the wife, and she came up and she couldn't get out of her car because there was a black wolf that was circling her car, and it was like the size of like a horse.
Right.
And it
I
was
remember that one.
Pacing around her car. Like, these stories are they're insane. Like, they had 5 or 7 of their their bulls. They were shoved into like their trailer.
Oh yeah.
But they were lined up perfectly to where they could have never have done it themselves.
Right.
They're shoved. There's like no room for them to even get out. Oh my God.
And there was the story of the calf that was found in the barn, and it's just like it was cut horizontally in half.
Yeah.
The bone and everything, just a perfect cut, all clean. It's not like it was ripped apart. It was just this, I don't know, like a laser just came along and cut it in half.
Yeah.
Yep. And of course those cattle mutilations are often associated with sightings of UFOs.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And they said that the cow's organs have been removed surgically.
Yeah, I heard that.
Surgically, like a doctor would perform the operation.
Yep. The husband and wife they would sit and watch like TV like any other couple in the middle of the night. I mean, they'd sit down and watch TV after work, and they had an old like Confederate army would like march through their living room as spirits and then go out the other side of the wall.
That's when I would go out the front door and get the heck out.
Like, what else do you do? Like, I think they were stuck to where they couldn't sell the place. Like, what do you do? And then the husband, the craziest things I've heard is the husband has caught his wife being like transported out of her bedroom by gray aliens, and they would come out of the room. So the husband didn't know what else to do because there's 4 of them holding her up. So he grabbed a katana blade that he had, and he was hacking them up. And it got to the point where he knew how to kill them. So he said, you cut off their heads and their body stays, but if you hit them anywhere else, they dissipate, And he took one of the bodies of the grays that he had, he sent it to a friend to analyze it, I guess, or just to see it, but his friend ended up dying mysteriously, like, after having the body.
And the alien body just disappeared?
Yeah.
That's insane. That kind of reminds me of the Whitley Strieber story.
Yeah. I heard that story. Yep, it sure does.
So what makes an area like the Skinwalker Ranch just infested with paranormal activity? Just everything you can think of happens on that ranch. Now, I've heard stories go back to witches owning that land long before it was a ranch, and they had done rituals and stuff like that.
And these spirits are territorial. Once they get their foothold in a place, they don't want to leave unless somehow they're, prayed out or cast out or exorcised out like a Catholic priest or something. Right. If they don't do that, these spirits are territorial. They'll stay right there, like they own the place.
Well, they do.
Yeah,
they technically do.
It's true.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Who among us wants to live in a haunted house? No one wants to live in a haunted house.
Yeah,
I've heard a house is being sold for like a mansion, being sold for like $2,000 or $3,000. The place was valued at $750. No one could figure out why did they sell for $2,000? Well, hell yeah, who wouldn't want to buy it, right?
Right.
Yeah, because the housekeeping never left.
$5,000, and guess what? The people that bought for $5,000 sold it for $2,000 within 2 months.
Wow.
Why? Because that place was haunted and they couldn't take it.
Yep. You actually have to say that when you're selling a house now. I've heard that. Like, if you know it is, you actually have to say that when you're selling a house.
Is that nationwide?
They had to reveal that or not?
I don't know. I've heard that, and I think I heard it from like a realtor.
I don't think that's here in Texas.
Yeah, it might just be a certain states.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, because that might not be statewide or countrywide, huh?
That's a deal breaker.
To say the least, that's the deal breaker.
Yeah. It's a great price for the house, but there's a dead clown in there too. So. And it's worth it.
I guess it depends on how much it bothers you.
How long do we have? How long do I have yet? I have 10 minutes yet? 15?
As long as you need.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, you open up the floor. You open up the floor.
I'd love to hear more of your stories.
Absolutely.
Well, now my second, let me take you to a real funny one. This is a funny one, but it's true. Bigfoot came to the football game.
Oh, we gotta hear it. Was he an older boy?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he was up in the stands eating popcorn and drinking sodas. Nothing kind of like that. But he was definitely at the football game. The stadium is by a river, which is by the woods on the other side, which is in Newcomerstown, Ohio. We're at the football game. Stands are packed. That's one of the big rival games. They're all cheering their team on. All of a sudden, and right after the halftime, the guys come back. They start playing football again. I'm sitting there eating my little sodas and stuff, and eating my cheeseburger. And also I hear the people up in the stands they're saying, hey, I see Bigfoot. I see Bigfoot. And I'm like, oh, okay, baby. I'm down here talking to the guys on the radio. And anyhow, so they're saying, yeah, he's down here by the river. And my friend says, come on, Dave, let's go see if we can see Bigfoot. I goes, that's okay. I had that was like 2 years after I saw the one out there on the guy's farm. And I'm like, that's okay. I seen him before. He goes, what? I go, yeah, I'm busy. I said, I'm eating. You go ahead, go on down. I didn't go down there. So he runs down. And so, and half the stands on the opposing team, they emptied because everybody ran down over to the river. I mean, it's like the football game was canceled. Everybody went down the river to see Bigfoot.
Oh my God.
Wow.
The stand, even old men and women were running down over the hill to see Bigfoot. I watched them.
Halftime show.
And so anybody that's in my school class, they'll tell you that they remember that time, that game that everybody said they seen Bigfoot. And so when the people came back, my friend came back, I said, well, did you see him? He goes, no, I couldn't see through the trees, but he said, I did talk to, he said, I heard some splashing. He said, but I couldn't see nothing. He said, I talked to some people that said that they seen this thing cross the river over, because there was an island right there. And they said they seen it cross over to the island. And I goes, really? I said, but you didn't see it. He goes, no, I didn't see it. He said, but they said they did. He said, they sure sound like they were telling the truth. I said, well, half the stands wouldn't have emptied out if somebody didn't see Bigfoot.
Right.
If they didn't see something down there. Half the stand, old people wouldn't be running down to the river if they didn't think that they seen something down there.
Yeah, that's incredible. My God, was he just like walking by?
That's my chapter about Bigfoot came. Of course, I go a little bit more detail about it in my book, but nevertheless, that's the brunt of it, guys. That's why I put Bigfoot came to the football game.
Did that get covered on any kind of media outlets, like the news or anything?
No. And it was kind of kept, if I could say, moot.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was quiet, and I don't know why. I guess probably because of the subject matter. Probably why it was kept quiet.
Yeah, no one's gonna believe you.
Yeah, and newcomers found out there was a lot of strange things. Man, I could tell stories to you guys all night long about the different strange things that happened around Newcomers Town. But one thing it was for sure, and I do believe that Bigfoot Sasquatch definitely hung around the Newcomers Town area for some odd reason.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know what would have drew it to the game? Think about it. If I ask you what would draw that thing to the game, what would you say? You would be like, he want to know who's going to win? No. Right, it's funny, right? This is why I think it came, because of the drum beats, man. It sounded like tree knocks to them.
Oh.
Does that make sense? See, during the halftime, what were they doing? They were playing them drums.
Yep.
Y'all see my point now? And it was just about 15 minutes after halftime, this thing appears down there by the river and they see it.
Wow. That's probably how Native Americans saw it, because they would actually do that as well, or the campfire play an instrument. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. They knew how to bring it in.
Yeah.
Do them little tree things.
Wow.
I've never I called anything in. I called him in or nothing like that. I'm just telling you my experiences, and some of my experiences are kind of like others, but some of them are completely different. It's like when I was fishing we was fishing at the lake. It's one of my last stories. We was fishing at this lake by where I used to live. I had a trailer by a lake, and we rented a trailer there, and we're fishing. And the lake had a lot of fish in it, and we having all kind of fun. But anyhow, we went out that day. It was in the afternoon, 2:00 in the afternoon, but it's supposed to get really cool. And that's what we thought, this might be a good afternoon to fish. We didn't have nothing else to do, so we went fishing. Me and my wife fished and went down there, and we're fishing for about maybe out there 20 minutes, and all of a sudden this rock is thrown out in the lake. And I'm like, she goes, what was that? Looked like someone threw a rock. And she goes, well, the kids ain't even around here. The kids are with their mother getting school clothes because it was in the middle of August. They're getting school clothes. She goes, the kids aren't even around here. What was it? And we had just watched the Bigfoot show. Me and her did 2 days before that, and they were talking about the rock thrown and a strong smell. And she goes, you don't think it's Bigfoot, do you? And you know what? I instantly knew it was.
Yeah.
I didn't want on to her that it was. I'm like, I doubt it. And 5 minutes later, another rock was thrown out. This one a little bit bigger, about the size of a baseball, was thrown out in there. And she goes, David. I go, yeah. She goes, go back and check. You see if that thing's back here. She goes, I'm scared. I'm going back to the trailer. I go, don't leave just yet. I said, I'll go back here and look. Very reluctantly. I didn't really want to go back here. I knew that thing was back there. Well, there was a little old trailer sitting back there. And so as soon as I walked back, I got to that trailer. From there on, it was super thick. We're talking thick briars and soft ground because it was the back of a lake. The water was like, it was kind of marshy back, and the cattails and everything. I'm like, I want to start sinking. I can't get back in there too far. She goes, go back here and check it out. I'm telling you, I think it's back there. I said, so you want me to go back there when you know it's back there? She goes, go look, go on. You scared? I go, no, I'm not scared. Acting like a big man, I'm not scared of it. No. So I want to be nice and brave to my wife, so I walked back. I laid my fishing pole down. I walked back here. As soon as I got to that trailer, I smelled something, curled my nose up like you wouldn't, like Limburger cheese, rotten Limburger cheese, rotten eggs. It curled my nose. I literally had to put my hand over my nose and clamp it shut. And I held it there and just taking little small breaths, and it stunk so bad, even doing that. Now this one I smelled. This one I definitely smelled. And I'm looking all around, and I can't see over 10 feet. I can't see nothing. It's too thick, but I can smell it. Man, I knew it was there, but I didn't see it. I admit I did not see anything. I'm not going to lie to y'all and say, yeah, I seen it 4 or 5. No, I'm telling y'all the God's honest truth. I'm not trying to make it sound real great or like a Bigfoot researcher or whatever. I'm just telling you, I only saw it twice in my life, but I had about 7 different encounters with this thing.
Yeah. Oh,
so what makes...
I didn't see it, but man, I knew it was there, guys. I knew it was there. And when I walked back, she goes, hey, did you see it? I goes, no, but I told her about the smell. And so that night, after supper, that's all we talked about. And she told me a story that I didn't know. And she said, yeah, the kids I was telling you about, Johnny and I'm sorry, I can't say names. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
About the two kids, I guess. The one boy got up during the night in his trailer back here by the road, off this one particular area. And he got up to go to the bathroom. Well, as he went from his room to 2 bedrooms, and the other bathroom was back here where his parents were. So he had to cross the kitchen area. So when he crossed the kitchen area, out of the corner of his eye, he looked out, and you could see the back of the yard where they had the security light. He looked back there, and by the security light stood this great big tall hairy thing. And she said he just about pissed his pants. And he told his dad the next day, and so his dad went out to look for tracks, but he didn't see any tracks because he was in the yard, right? So, but he seen impressions in the yard, but he couldn't say for sure that it was a Bigfoot track. He just saw impressions where the grass was tramped down. Mm-hmm. So he knew the area pretty good. So he done some investigating. His wife said, why don't you go back there and see if you can find some tracks? Because I know, she called the boy by name, I know he wouldn't lie. He go, I'm not saying he's lying. That is kind of a weird story, Maybe he was dreaming. And he spoke up. He said, Dad, I wasn't dreaming. I went to the bathroom. And then his sister spoke up and said, no, when he came in the room at that same time, scared stiff and said he saw something real big and hairy out in the backyard. He told me about it. So he wasn't dreaming. So he went back to look for stuff. He's back there looking, and he finally did. He not only found tracks, he found about 4 or 5 tracks. He also found those, you know how they have sticks to make them like little huts in the woods?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, he found them. He found 2 of those like little type of huts. And he did poke his head in one. And he said he seen a bunch of hair laying on the ground. And when he seen a bunch of the hair, he said he poked his head out and he took off and went back home.
Wow. Oh, my God.
It scared him because he saw the hair. And so he figured it had to come from some type of a creature. And so that was the evidence that he found. And so then he believed his boy then. He believed him then.
Jeez. Now, are you still actively searching for a Bigfoot? Or you're researching?
The only research I'm doing right now is for my book, because I live like 15 miles south of Atlanta. So, I'm not going to see too many Bigfoot down there.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm just doing a lot of research for the book, and I'm just finding out things that are blowing my mind. I'm writing down stories. Well, it's kind of stories because I got to be careful how I do stuff. Like, I can't go putting things word for word, or they'll get you for page breaks. So I got to copyright it or put footnotes and stuff like that. So it takes you a while to make a book. So I'm halfway through it, but the information I have found so far is just mind-boggling, and it all pointing toward one particular thing, that this creature isn't of this world.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, is there something that you found out about Bigfoot that no one else has talked about? I'm guessing so.
Yeah, but if I go saying this crap on the radio, people are going to shoot me down. They're going to say, that guy he's nuts. I wouldn't believe a thing he said. He's nuts.
So I guess we'd have to get the book for that.
Taking it back to the Bible, takes it back to the giants, to the giants that they talked about.
Yeah.
Well, when these giants died, they didn't really have human spirit. They didn't have spirits like you and I do. They didn't have no spirits at all. But when they died, according to some of the books that weren't actually included in the Bible, called the Apocrypha books that weren't canonized in the original edition of the Bible.
Right.
Pseudographical works like the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Enoch. Have you heard of those books?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, they tell about these giants dying and spirits coming out of these giants. And of course, these spirits didn't have bodies, but they believe, and the Jewish people, a lot of the Jewish rabbis believed that's where the demon came from, was from these particular giants that had lived, and it's recorded in there about that information in there. And that's as far as I'm going to go with it, because I'll say the rest of the book.
The giants you're talking about, are you talking about the Nephilim?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The giants weren't called the Nephilim. The Nephilim were actually the sons of God who came down and actually had sexual relations with beautiful women on this earth. And that can be verified. If y'all would start laughing at me on that one, I could understand it. But that can be verified in every culture, every continent, every story, and in the past in this world. It's not just those books I told you about. It can be verified in other historical works, and most definitely in the Greek myths. Mythology.
So do you think these Bigfoots are demons then?
They possibly could be, but and of course demons would be what? Supernatural.
Right.
But I'm not saying that they're demons. Don't get me wrong. That's why I said supernatural. I don't know. They may be something. They may be a different cross from a demon to some type of a dimensional creature. It may be. They may be part demon. I don't know. I'm not an I don't know everything. That's why I'm writing the book, and I'm doing all my research and stuff. And I'm just putting stuff out and saying, hey, they could be. Somebody else could say, I don't care what he says, they're a real creature. And that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying, hey, you got to believe the way I do. I ain't saying that, because I don't know everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
So do you like the way do you like my perspective? Do you like how I'm...
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I can't wait to get your next book and read that, just so I can come up with some more of my own theories.
Yes, you can have different theories. It's okay. I don't have the handle on this thing.
Exactly. It's free for everyone to judge and to construe how they want, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that's the way it should be. I don't like people that are dogmatic. I can't get along with them.
I'm the same way.
I have an open mind. I have my mind open, and somebody else can think of something better, and you can prove it. You have other evidence.
Right.
I'm willing to listen to it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yep.
So that's probably why y'all had me on here. You wanted to see
yeah.
the way I look at it, because I know you've had other people on here and talked about it before, and so when you get all these people, you can start forming your own theory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It's interesting to ask people.
So, but let me ask you guys a question now. You guys have been asking me a question. Let me ask you a question. Based upon all my stories, the stories that I've told you, and I still got another hour to go, but I'm not going to go there. Based upon what I've told, why would you, if you knew what I did, what would you think? What would you say? What would you say about this thing?
Oh, me personally, I've been looking into Bigfoot for such a long time through YouTube videos and just talking to like a lot of people and stuff. I do believe in it, just because I go back to saying like not everyone's lying, like all around the world there's sightings. Everyone's not having fun with this, like lying about it.
Right.
There is something out there, so I do believe in it. Yes. And everything you're telling me right here, man, I believe you 100%.
Does it make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does, because I've heard other stories that are close to that, too.
Yeah, it sounds crazier in the bed, but does that make it wrong?
It sounds crazy to people that don't have an open mind to it. You know what I mean?
That's, boy, you said a mouthful there.
Yeah, yep. And they're the people that need a body.
Yes.
There's the craziest things are generally the truest things.
I have found that out to be true too. You're right. The craziest, unbelievable. What happens if it really is true? I mean, what happens if someone didn't make that up? What happens if it really occurred? Just like that Pulaski Farm incident. What if that was a true story? Yeah. Even though the state trooper couldn't find any evidence other than the gun shell casings and a little bit of hair that they couldn't verify. They just said there's nothing like it. In other words, there's nothing like it. So there's nothing to compare it to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So even at that should tell you something. See, you got to look at this thing like a detective. You got to put all the pieces together in the form of, and like you do a puzzle, put all the pieces together, and when you do, you form a picture. Now you may not believe what that picture says or looks like,
right?
But it formed a picture.
Yep.
Something to think about, isn't it?
Very, very true. Yeah.
I think it was up till right around Eric and I were doing a podcast on the Skinwalker Ranch. I always thought that Bigfoot was a beast, just an unknown wild animal that we just hadn't cataloged yet. But when I was reading about Skinwalker Ranch and the shape-shifting skinwalkers and the Indians and the medicine men and all that, is when I started coming to the conclusion that it was not a physical being, but more of a spiritual being as well. So I would think that the answer to your question from me is, yeah, I think you're right as well, that it's not nothing of this world.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, I about lost my job over this particular step. I mean, I got transferred out of the site. I was telling somebody at my workplace where I was working at, I was telling about that story. Somebody in the other cubicle who was in the office building heard me say this, and they called the property manager and said, this man is talking scary stuff and he's scaring me, and I don't like it. I felt very uncomfortable with the conversation. I wasn't even talking to her. I was talking to another lady, and apparently she overheard me. I didn't even know it. And so property manager called my workplace and said, I want him out of there.
Wow.
That is not stuff we want our security officer to be saying, to telling people. Well, I want him out of there. And they removed me. Matter of fact, I came within a hair of getting myself fired.
Oh my God. Just from talking about it?
Yes. Just for having a conversation about that. I didn't really even know the other lady. I didn't know anybody was here. Listen to me.
Yeah,
but after I left, they had a conversation about it, and they all got together and decided that they didn't want me back in there no more. And so they called the lady and told her. And so she sent them a mail at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Sent my company at that late at night and said, I don't want Officer Walker there no more. I'm sorry about that.
Jeez.
I think the hardest things in the world is for someone to come to a conclusion that they had a predestined idea of what the world was, and they were just so sure of how the way the world works, and then they just find out that it just isn't that way, and they just can't accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so
that's crazy.
I guess sometimes I know a little bit too much. I know just enough to get myself in trouble.
Yeah, it's a shame when you're so passionate about it. You just want to tell everyone,
Yeah, and apparently somebody overheard me, and so I said to myself, I can't talk like Eddie. I can't bring a subject up no more.
Well,
but,
a lot of these subjects are taboo for a lot of people.
I'm sorry.
A lot of these subjects dealing with paranormal are just taboo for people. Like they just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But again, that's a closed mind.
Exactly.
You really, I mean, people say, Stephen, wait a minute. Do you believe in God? How many people believe in God? I'd say, I'm going to take a wild guess. I'm going to say 80% of the American population believe in God. And would you say I'm right? 75 to 80%?
Yeah, I would say that's about right. Yep.
70 to 80%, somewhere in that vicinity, believe in God. Well, if you believe in God, you believe in the good part, don't you think that there's a bad part too? Because the Bible talks about a bad part too.
They don't want to hear that part though. It's scary.
Matter of fact, Jesus took authority over the bad part when he was walking this earth. He took authority over the bad part.
Yeah.
So if he dealt with them, where did they come from?
Right.
If he dealt with them, that means that they were what? Supernatural.
Yeah. When I was into ghost research, I did a lot of it, and I loved coming across like non-believers. People are like, "Oh, ghosts don't exist," And I would love to go up to them and say, "Well, do you go to church?" And they go, "Oh yeah, I go to church." It's like, "Well, do you believe in the Holy Spirit?" That's all you gotta say.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
The great that's another favorite subject of mine. The Trinity. There isn't anything any more complicated than the Trinity, but again, there isn't anything any more simple than the Trinity.
Yeah, it's like both ends.
It's simple, but yet it's so complicated. Because we as humans, we don't know nothing about. So what we do, I'll be Jesus saying, "Hey, look, don't take this. Don't get too wrapped up in it. Just believe what I say. You believe what I say, you have it made. But if you don't believe what I say, you try to figure this thing out in your mind, you'll wear yourself out. Just believe this simple thing. Like a child. He said, unless you become a child, you can never enter the kingdom of God. You have to become like a little child. And what does a child do? You tell a child something, he believes you because he don't know.
Exactly.
So Jesus is saying, I want you to do the same way. When I tell you something, not some preacher, not some other Christian, but when I tell you something, think about it the same way. You believe me. Don't believe them. You believe what I say, and you'll enter the kingdom of heaven. That's what he's saying in so many words.
Exactly.
That's powerful stuff, man. That's powerful. I mean, I get wrapped up in it. I can get wrapped up. Like I said, I'm a church one guy. I believe in God. I'm on the radio. I don't know how many people listen to me. It don't matter. Yeah, I believe in the supernatural. I believe in Bigfoot, but I'm better than that and greater than that. I believe in God. That's the most important thing.
Yeah,
that I believe in God. But even Jesus himself said this. He made this statement. Listen to what he said. He said, the days that are coming in this, when I come back, he said, it will be just like it was in the days of Noah. That's why I went back. I said, could the same things that have been happening that are happening now with the Bigfoot and evil spirits and all this stuff coming, this supernatural stuff happening, could it have been happening back then? That's when I went back to Genesis chapter 6. It says, and in those days, there were giants on the earth in those days. Mm-hmm. What days? The days before the flood. There were giants on the earth in those days. Now, we may not see the particular type giants, but we're seeing other giants.
Right.
They are hairy, and they're here. They're here. And he's getting ready to, I believe the Lord's getting ready to come pretty soon. And you look at the conditions that are on the earth today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very true. Without question.
Did I make a good statement there?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem like that though. It really does.
I tell you, I mean, we could really it's one of my favorite subjects, dude. When you guys said you wanted to talk, I said, I got to get on that Skype. I don't know. I've never been on it before, but I got to get on. I got to tell these guys what I got in my head. I got to tell this to somebody. I tell it to people, but the people I tell it to, they don't know anything about it. They're just like, you're nuttier than the fruitcake, dude. But I like you. You're a nice guy, but you're nuttier than the fruitcake because you get strange ass theories, man. You know what I'm saying?
It's a shame, but it's true. When you talk to people about it that don't have no interest in it, it's a shame.
So I'm so glad I got connected with you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sitting here by the campfire and we're all talking together.
Absolutely, man. I'm so glad you said yes. That was wonderful that you
Oh,
did.
yeah. And we definitely have to have you back on when your new book comes out.
Oh, yeah.
You know it. I'll hit you guys up, Mr. Fullhulk and Mr. Eric.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
hit you guys up and say, hey, I got that book done. It's out. It's published. Y'all, I want to send you guys a copy.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that sounds great.
That would be
man.
amazing.
Would love it.
And I mean, just like on that show, I watched that Bigfoot disappearing, or I didn't watch it, but I watched the track disappear into that cave that time, snowing out, blizzard. I mean, we're talking 15 below zero.
Oh my God.
And I followed those tracks for half an hour. I followed those tracks. I'm out hunting deer, my first deer hunt by myself, and I run into Bigfoot's track. I'm thinking of all the tracks I run into, I had to run into these tracks.
Now, did you hear them?
They have the same three toes. How did they get here from 15 miles away? How did they get here?
Now, did you hear it down in the cave when you were coming up to it?
No, didn't hear nothing. Nothing. Just all I heard was the wind and the blowing and howling and everything. But okay, getting back against the odds. Who's going to get up? What man's going to get up, put on a pair of Bigfoot cleats, and walk through snow early in the morning on the last day of deer gun season when there are hunters out there will shoot anything that moves? Who's going to play Bigfoot?
It's Russian roulette.
Yeah.
For what?
I mean, risk, and guess what? It was still snowing hard. The track was getting covered over fast. So who's going to go out there and do that?
Right.
Now, it was a cave that you came up upon, right? Was there drag marks from a deer or something going to the cave?
There were just as footprints. But now listen to this. This is the part you won't believe. Unbeknown, the show didn't really do this justice. But don't get me wrong, the show was awesome.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
Didn't do justice to the fact that the cave hole was too big on the movie, on the show. But the cave hole was only about 3 feet wide and 3 feet high, and it had briars hanging down over it, and there was snow on them briars. But the tracks went right into the cave, and I'm like, how did that Bigfoot get in there without knocking the snow off those briars?
Seriously?
That's a good point.
Wow.
And I stood there at the cave, just like on the movie. I stood there contemplating all the stuff, thousands of things going through my mind, and all of a sudden, feeling came over me, dreadful feeling. Like telepathically, that thing was communicating with me and saying, why are you standing here? Don't you know I can come out here and tear you to pieces?
Have you ever wanted to go back?
I'm answering myself. I'm answering it. Yeah. And I'm starting to get so scared. Just like this thing's talking to me. And I'm like, but if I shoot it, I'll be the first one to ever shoot a Bigfoot and bring it in. Then I thought, well, what happens if you get scared, you drop the gun in the snow, and that thing rips you apart and has you for its next meal? I turned around and I took off running as fast as I could. I did keep the gun in my hand because I thought, well, if it gets too close, I'll turn around and try to shoot it.
Right.
You're thinking of all kinds of different stuff. But I knew one thing. I had to get that ATW out of there and out of there now. And I took off running. And when I got to my brother's house, he seen me. He thought I was so hot and sweaty. He goes, did you get him? What'd you get? You get a buck? I didn't get it there. What? He goes, well, why are you so hot and sweaty for? I said, I saw Bigfoot's track, Bob. He goes, what? Bigfoot? And he laughed so hard. He almost fell on the floor. He said, hey, Mana, which is his wife. He goes, hey, Mana, David seen Bigfoot's track. And she busted out laughing. And then the kids, my niece and my nephew, they busted out laughing. And I said, look, if you don't believe me, I'll take you right back here right now and show you. I ain't got time for such foolishness. And he just laughed. And then he called my dad and told my dad. My dad said, don't listen to him. He told us that story about 6 months ago about him seeing Bigfoot out there at the you-know-what's farm. I almost said their name. Out there at the you-know-what's farm. He said, yeah, I remember you saying that. He goes, I don't know why he wants attention like that for. I said, dude, I'll take you back there right now and show you the track. No, but he just laughed it off.
Wow. Oh, my God. Have you ever wanted to go back there?
I can't. Somebody sold the farm. My brother sold the farm. He actually offered to me and my mom. I was with my mom at the time. And he actually offered us to buy the farm. He sold it for $52,000, but he offered to sell it to us for like $46,000. Gave us a real good deal on it. Mom goes, I ain't gonna live out there. I go, Mom, hey, come on, let's get it. Come on, I want to go back there. It was a cool 80 acres for $46,000. $4,000. You know what that place is worth today? It's probably worth somewhere between $750,000 to $1 million.
Oh man.
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to live there so bad, but she said, "We ain't living out today, but we'll never make it to work." Yeah, Bob said, "Joanne, I didn't make it a lot, and I did have a 4-wheel drive, but he said I used the snow as an excuse not to go to work." He said I could have made it several times, but when it snowed, I told him I'm not coming in, and they let him go because he worked there for like 30 years. They wasn't going to fire him. They just let him go.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, I use that as an excuse, Joe. He can make it to work. That's a high hill. There ain't no way he'd be able to make it. So I couldn't convince her. And man, they had deer out there in that property like you wouldn't believe. Trophy bucks. I mean, trophy bucks.
Oh my God!
But anyhow, besides the deer, I could tell a bunch of but besides the deer stories, there was definitely something out there on his property. Listen to this: was only 2 miles from the place by the lake property where the rocks were thrown in the lake.
Oh, really?
Wow!
Only 2 miles from that spot.
That's a hot zone, man. Jeez.
Yes. Oh yeah, and the lake spot to finish this up because I know y'all got other stuff to do and you got other listeners or whatever or other people to talk. But to finish this up, but that lake spot. After I smelled all this stuff and I came back, well, I kept on fishing. Of course, my wife went back and she started stuff. I kept on fishing because, like I said, we had fun fishing there. And so I'm fishing out there on the edge and another rock was thrown out. Well, I'm getting used to it now, so it didn't really bother me much, right? So guess what? The last rock was thrown out. When this rock was thrown out, I got the heck out of there. This rock was big as a basketball.
Oh, geez.
Jeez, what?
It had to weigh at least 10 or 15 pounds because when that sucker hit the lake, I thought Bigfoot jumped in the lake.
Oh my God!
It made a big splash, and of course fishing was over because the waves came over and were taking my bobber and bouncing it all around. So I'm like, it's time to go. It's time to go. It's time to go eat, Dave. Time to go for supper.
Yeah.
I took off running, man. I told her about it, and that's when she started telling me the story about the kids seeing the Bigfoot.
Oh God, that's crazy.
Yeah, this thing was a 10 or 15 pound rock and thrown out in the middle of the lake, and the lake was about an acre lake. The size of it was about an acre.
Oh wow! Oh my God!
So I got some stories to tell. Kind of like the Indians, I guess, in a certain way. They tell about stuff like that happening, and it's true. I'm not making. I didn't make it. I didn't make that story up.
Yeah,
and I know they didn't make it up. That's why I believe them.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild. Jeez.
In your personal opinion, do you think we'll ever catch a Bigfoot? Do you think someone will shoot it eventually?
They could shoot it, but they ain't gonna bring it in.
Yeah.
Until they bring it in, I'm going to keep on believing the way I'm believing.
Yep.
And guess what? For thousands of years, no one's done it. I highly don't think they're going to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of think the same.
Kind of thing. And so, again, that fuels the skeptics. Yeah, I told you.
Yeah,
you guys don't know what you're talking about. You guys don't even know the whole story. So what are you saying? That just because there's no body or bones does not mean that this thing doesn't exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
unfortunately, it's the way people think.
Y'all have learned a little bit of something from what I've said today.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot of new details, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. This was great, man.
Absolutely.
Like I said, man, I got saliva coming out the sides of my mouth. I'm eating this up. I'm eating this up like candy.
Oh man!
But you know what? Because you know why? Nobody can refute me. Nobody can say I'm wrong. You can't say you can think different, but you can't say I'm wrong and prove it.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it has been an absolute delight to have you on the program, and seriously, we'd love to have you back when your new book comes out.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'd love to come back. Y'all just hit me up anytime you want me to come back, and we can talk about the rest of my story. Because I've only told you about maybe almost half of them. There's still some that are really juicy too, really good too, but along the same lines, but different, of course.
Right.
Oh, wonderful, man. Yeah. We got to stay connected, man.
Until next time, we'll talk again.
Absolutely. And your book is available on Amazon and anywhere else. I think Barnes & Nobles, I saw it.
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, underneath the Ohio Monster. And if they can't Just put The Ohio Monster by David Walker, just by David Walker, and it'll pop up, and you can get it for I think $3.99 for the Kindle edition, and the actual hard copy is $9.99.
Yep, awesome.
Perfect.
It ain't gonna break the bank, and that wasn't my purpose. My purpose was just to get the story out.
Yeah, go out and get it. Yep.
The Ohio Monster by David Walker.
Yeah, The Ohio Monster by David Walker.
And you can catch them on the Travel Channel, Terror in the Woods.
Well, actually, it's not terror. I don't think it's terror. It's These Woods Are Haunted.
See, that's funny because when I went and watched it, it actually came up Terror in the Woods. I don't know why.
Oh, well, maybe they changed the heading, but it was originally under These Woods
Are Haunted. Yeah. I'll have to check that out again to see if that's what comes up again.
Yeah, but I'm glad you said Terror in the Woods because a couple of times I had a hard time finding it myself. My own
show.
Awesome.
We all learned something there.
Yep.
Me too. Yes, I'll just go Terror in the Woods and see if it comes up there. But it is on season 2, episode 9.
Episode 9.
Excellent.
Season 2.
Well, thank you so much
anybody
again.
out there in Radio Land, season 2, episode 9. It's on the Travel Channel. You can also probably find it on YouTube. I will watch it on YouTube because it's free on YouTube.
If it's free, it's for me, right? That's my motto.
Good. My motto too. Wherever it's free, that's where I'm going to go.
That's wonderful, man.
All right,
definitely
dude.
stay connected.
I'll talk to you later, and
Yep.
it's been a pleasure being on your show.
Yes.
Pleasure's
all
ours. Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening to Bizarre Conspiracies, and thank you again to David Walker for being on the show. Again, you can find his book anywhere books are sold. The Ohio Monster, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Barnes & Nobles. And thank you to Fullhulk for being on the show again. It's always nice to have you on. If you want to email the show, you can do so at bizarreconspiracies@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.